What's up, everyone? It's CTD from C2 Wrestling, and I just want to give you guys a heads up before we get into this video. We will be live with our live reactions to Saturday night's main evented by Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. Come hang out with us right here on our YouTube channel. We will have our live reactions. We will be talking wrestling. We're going to have a great time. Hang out with the boys, watch us be upset or love the outcomes. It'll be a great time. We hope to see you there. But now, let's get into the video. C2 Wrestling Podcast is back. NXT Deadline. Pretty solid show.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. This was, not the most must-see card, but it was a solid card all the way around. It was good matchups. The woman closing the show, of course, that was really the biggest matchup on this entire card is the five-way women's Iron Survivor. But top to bottom, it was a solid card all the way around. These were all names I wanted to see on the show. Maybe we're missing Tony D in there, but you can't squeeze everything in. We got two, 30-minute plus matches. It's okay. 25-minute plus matches, whatever it is. I'm cool with it. It was a fun show. I have no complaints, really. Where do you want to get started?
I say we get started with what opened the show. The biggest
Absolutely.
moment, kind of what we expected. If you're not following us on Twitter at C2 Wrestling, give us a follow. We had tweeted out beforehand. Felt like this was the spot for the return of Obafemi. We've been saying for months, and to be fair, many others have as well, but
Yeah.
when Obafemi was the NXT North American champion, we said it feels logical. The timeline is Obafemi's the champ. He either drops the title or relinquishes it, faces Trick. Ethan Page was even the champ at this point. Faces Trick, takes the title off Trick, becomes the new head honcho of NXT. We're one step closer to that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the timeline is pretty predictable here in Obafemi, Trick Williams probably facing at whatever NXT PLE is lined up with the Rumble over that weekend, I would imagine. I think Oba takes the title from Trick at that show. Oba goes into what you can presume is Stand and Deliver alongside WrestleMania weekend, maybe even in match number 2 against Trick. And I think maybe that's the NXT send off for Trick Williams. I think that might be the official call up to the main roster for Trick. Now, tying this into SmackDown a little bit, there's been some rumors, predictions on who could be facing Carmelo Hayes this coming week on SmackDown. I've seen some people spitballing that it might be Trick Williams. I don't know. I think that's maybe too soon for Trick to be going up against him again. I don't know if I want him integrated into the main roster until he's fully out of NXT, but I think the timeline is as predictable as that. I think that's what we're getting out of this Obafemi win. I have nothing to complain about. Obafemi, the ruler, that's one of the best guys going right now, especially for as green as he is in a way. He's fantastic, man. I got nothing to complain about.
Is the title shot at New Year's Evil? Because I know they said on commentary Julia's is. I don't know.
Mm,
I had
maybe they did.
full disclosure at that point, I had NXT on mute on and off.
Mm-hmm.
UFC and football are also on, so I
Yep.
kind of was doing a little bit of a rotation. And I knew Obafemi's, as my cat goes insane behind me, I knew Obafemi's music was going to hit, so I was waiting for that, and then I muted. So he might be facing him at New Year's Evil for the title,
Yes,
which,
it could be New Year's Evil now that you say that. New Year's Evil though, don't they treat as like a TV event?
yes.
Okay, sure, could do it there. I don't know if that's as big as a place to do it. Maybe they do run it there, but maybe something happens. Maybe the match gets interrupted by an Ethan Page, a Ridge Holland, whoever, whatever, and maybe they run it back at whatever show ties to the Rumble. That just feels like it's got a bigger effect, in my opinion. Obafemi is a beast, man. He is a monster. He's a guy that you really strap the rocket to, even in NXT, leading into his main roster run. I want him to do it all, but I want him to do it at these bigger events, I think. Him winning it alongside that Rumble show has a lot more power to it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely just want him to have the title. Mainly when I look at Trick, even if Trick does or does not get called up, I look at Javon Evans. Like these guys are great chasers,
Yeah.
and Obafemi is
Yep.
a great holder. And it feels like NXT is now to that point where I don't need another Trick Williams Ridge Holland match, and I don't really know who else Trick could even feud with besides losing to Obafemi and then starting the chase again. And the seeds were kind of planted that at some point we'll get Obafemi as champion, Javon Evans as the mighty challenger in his heroic efforts. Like that feels like that's the future. Does Trick get called up? I would say no.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
I don't I definitely don't want it to be Carmelo's surprise opponent. To
Agreed.
me, like
At
those
all.
are just one random 1 week. Like to me, that I could be completely wrong. That just feels like pure Twitter speculation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That like,
To further that point, I more so think like Ethan Page is an acceptable answer, even though that's kind of heel versus heel. That seems more reasonable than a Carmelo or a Trick Williams versus Carmelo, rather. Doesn't do it for me.
yeah, and I do think there's going to be a couple NXT call ups. We've been saying it feels like Ethan Page will go up. I don't know what Ethan Page would do if he didn't go up. Not that it doesn't feel like there's not that many opponents, but he's obviously not going to be going for the title
Yeah.
anytime soon. He kind of needs to be at that level. There's no one else that really makes sense. He's already feuded with all the main guys. And on top of it, he kind of deserves to be on the main roster and deserves to get that bump up. He was entertaining in this match, but all of this kind of ties back to one thing that we've been pretty persistent on. The women's division in NXT is significantly stronger than the men's division. I think an Obafemi title reign helps that, but even the Iron Survivor matches showed like the women's division in NXT is the premier division.
Yeah, I think they're starting to do more in NXT with guys like Eddie Thorpe, even though he wasn't in the match tonight. Lexus King is getting some more involvement around. I think there's a little bit of development happening in the men's roster. Like you had said, I think we're on record, at least I'm on record, as far back as who knows when, as saying that Obafemi is NXT champion versus Javon Evans down the line. That's your money match. You just said Oba's a good holder, Javon is a good chaser. That is going to be a feud that's going to happen down the line. That puts the men's division, main championship side of things, in a good spot. When you have a Nathan Frazier and an Axiom, a potential breakup between them, maybe you have a Nathan Frazier singles run who was stellar in not just this match, but the tag team match as well tonight. That's a guy that you can strap the rocket to. I think he's going to be one of the best of all time when he's said and done. There's not many heels right now, though, is the problem. You have Obafemi, who you can really run as a big, strong guy heel. Javon Evans is a super baby face. That's kind of the problem with this Trick run right now, is he ran through all the heels that really are to run through, except Obafemi, who is all but guaranteed to take that belt off a Trick.
And as weird as it sounds, like I think they both still need to kind of be in NXT for a while,
Yeah.
but there's just not that many opponents that make sense. And there's going to be an influx. There's going to be some changes. At some point, the tag division might get Hikuleo and Lantanawaii teaming
Yep.
and debuting, and they take on Frazier and Axiom. Like, who knows? Anything can truly happen at any point, especially with NXT and where they just bring people down. We have this transfer window now open, so someone from the main roster could even be moving there. Like, nothing is impossible, but taking it from tonight, it does feel like the men's division has reached the point that we were expecting.
Yeah.
Oba is the number one contender, probably takes the title off of Trick. Now you got to go into that like next new wave of, I could see like an Oba Lexus King feud,
Mm-hmm.
the Oba Javon Evans feud, his continuation with the Trick feud. Like there's a lot to it that'll go on after that. The women's division, which saw Giulia win the women's Iron
Yep.
Survivor, does not feel like it's that kind of change. It's got that new influx of three main top level wrestlers added, and they're all in the mix. They're all in motion and feel much farther down the line than the men.
Absolutely. So I'm going to hit you with a question after that. Obafemi was obviously the right choice to win the men's match. The men's match had some great wrestlers. It's a stacked match if you want to get technical, but odds of winning it was 99-1 Oba Femi winning that match. The women's match could have went pretty much anywhere. It's kind of confident Ren Sinclair isn't winning. That's okay, but it could have went almost anywhere else. Do you think they made the right decision with Giulia?
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I think this is going to lead to a heel turn from Stephanie. I think we get a
Okay.
Stephanie Becker heel turn. They've been having the back and forth of like the one-upsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Giulia gets the one up at the very end. I do think there's a good chance Giulia beats Roxanne Perez and becomes the new NXT Women's Champion, and Roxanne goes to the main roster. I do think that's very possible, even though she's still somewhat newer with Cora Jade in this duo. But I think we're going to get a Stephanie heel turn. Three strong women brought in, all being baby faces the entire, like, for a long stretch. It just doesn't work. You're going to run through all of the same heels and basically go through the same stories, just kind of shifting them. Like, all right, Stephanie's facing this person, Julie's facing this person, and Delta's facing this person. All right, now slide them. Now slide them. I think one of them needs to turn heel, and I think it'll be Stephanie.
So I do agree. I do think they made the right decision. In a way, Zarya could have won. Stephanie could have won. I would have said it was the right decision, probably still, because it could have went either way. Giulia, I think, is the right person, though, to take the title off Roxanne. I definitely see Roxanne going up to the main roster. It's deserved at this point. It's kind of funny, though, because when you really think about all the names included, I know Roxanne's been around for a little while at this point, but you almost think Roxanne would still be in NXT and like Stephanie and Giulia and all them would be coming up, you know? It's
Yeah.
kind of like role reversed a little bit. But what I think would be interesting is kind of exactly what you said, but let's flip it. I know we just ran the same thing with our potential Oba Femi Javon Chase storyline. Oba the heel holder, Javon the over babyface chaser. Do you turn Giulia heel and have Stephanie the babyface chasing Giulia? I don't really know what route you go. It can work either way. I think heel Giulia might work better than face Giulia.
Yes, I do also think there's a chance we get a quick title change. I
Yeah.
could see if Stephanie were to turn heel, she takes the title off of Julia quickly,
Mm-hmm.
cheats, does something, uses a whatever. And that's how they change the titles. Because I do think, I agree, them both being face isn't going to cut it. And
Last, yeah.
Julia might be the better heel. But just going off of where we are right now, with Julia kind of getting the more babyface moment of winning, I'll say she'll stay face. And on top of it, I think there's a good chance Zarya wins the women's North American title, takes it, and she's also a babyface. You don't want two super strong baby faces as your two champions.
Yeah, you actually took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, if I'm booking the NXT Women's Division, you have Zarya, then take the North American Championship. I think that puts some eyes on that title that haven't really been on it since it's become a title. Uh, Kalani Jordan, Fallon Henley, you know, the title's around. And I like Fallon Henley. I like, you know, where the title's at right now, but it's just kind of there. You put it on a bigger name like Zarya. Not only do you put it on her, I think you have her destroy JC Jane, Jasmine Nix, and Fallon Henley and take that belt. I think that puts her over big time and you establish that belt a bit better alongside establishing the main championship. And then down the line, whether that belt floats from Giulia to Stephanie to wherever, you then have Zarya in the mix. My only worry is with these three names, Zarya, Giulia, Stephanie, being as big as they are, as powerful as they are, as good as they are. Is a Sol Ruka getting lost in the mix here?
I could see Sol Ruka getting called up as well.
I can see it too. I think I see that happening more than I see her getting a title in NXT, to be honest, even the North American title, anything. I think they have like low key booked out plans for a year of what they want to do with this NXT championship in a way. And, you know, everything is subject to change. But when you have these three women all in NXT, how long, like, you can't float the belt and like real storylines between all three of them within 3 or 4 months. You know, it's going to take time to do that at all. And I think some of those other names, the Sol Rukas, the Kalani Jordans, we'll get a little lost in the mix. So why not call up a Sol Ruka?
Yeah, and especially with both Raw and SmackDown getting mid card women's titles, you need a couple of those names to go. And look, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sitting here saying that six of the NXT women are going to get called up, but it is a very deep division, and
Yeah,
there's plenty of names that even, kind of have to start to elevate. Like Jada Parker is starting to work her way up into that next level. Lola Vice has kind of been around for a bit, but still working her way up. Like
mm-hmm.
if Roxanne and Sol Ruka get called up, who have been two mainstays for quite some time. I mean, Roxanne since she's gotten there, Sol Ruka since she's come back from injury. If they get called up, that division isn't hurting as bad as compared to the men's if they lost Trick Williams and Oba or something like that. Like that puts the men's in
Absolutely.
a much worse spot. The women will be fine with 2 to 3 call ups, but the main roster needs those 2 or 3 call ups.
I agree. The women's U.S. title tournament is a pretty good bracket. It's not too bad. The women's IC bracket, not really sold on it, if I'm being honest. I'm going to be real. There's not a name in that bracket that I'm like, that's your women's IC champion. Not that I'd sit here and say put it on Sol Ruka or somebody, but I think the main roster of women needs a little bit more depth, in all honesty. And it's large. It is a big roster right now, but it needs a little bit more depth. My only fear is in, again, calling up a Sol Ruka. It'd be the same as if she stayed in NXT or you call someone like her up. Does she get lost in the mix of the main roster? They've hardly have found time for Lyra Valkyria, who is a former champion. So, as kind of illustrious as these women's divisions are right now, and they're introducing new titles between all three brands, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Everything that is happening is great. So, in a way, there's nothing to complain about. But I fear a little bit of people getting kind of lost in the shuffle here.
Yep, and the switch to 3 hours will obviously
That will
help
help. Yeah.
both shows because there's definitely plenty of people that just clearly aren't getting as much TV time as they were when they were 3 hour shows. But all in all, back on NXT Deadline, solid show, no complaints. My biggest pro about it, over before 10 o'clock. Love it.
Glorious.
Yep.
Glorious.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Can't complain about that.
Yeah. Yeah. We're straight up. It's 10:05 right now. We're recording this, just about done with this video. This is great. If this was 4 or 5 years ago and this was a regular PLE, oh my God, we'd be sitting here for another hour and a half probably. And then before 10
Easily.
o'clock, in and out PLE. Good show. Nothing to complain about again.
Good show, straight to the point. Got, matches, got the times that they needed. In and out. Watch NXT on Tuesday. Beautiful. That's all we
Beautiful.
need.
That's all we need.
So, C2 Wrestling, tune in more because we have a video coming tomorrow and the next day, I think. Not
Yeah.
the next day. Then
And
maybe
not
the
the
next
next day,
day. No,
but
then
the
not
next
the
day
next
after
day.
that.
But then the next day after that. And then I think maybe two the next day after that.
Yeah.
And then the live stream, Saturday night's main event. Make sure you're there.
Yeah, point is, we got a lot of content coming your ways, guys. So go down below, comment on this video, like, subscribe to our channel. You want to hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of content coming out again. So you want to be notified when it's dropping. Follow us already. This is the best wrestling content on YouTube, and we're just getting started still. Snowden, CTD, C2 Wrestling.